Audacity in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Barbell Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Christina Lynn, and I'm here with my co-host, Marissa Roy. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about something a little bit different and maybe have a little bit of a different formatting with this podcast. We're just kind of going to dive into like just some tactical, easable, tangible takeaways.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to know, we would love some feedback on this episode when it does come out, how you guys like this episode, and how it was structured, because I think there's a lot of topics that we could do, like quick actionable takeaway type episodes like this, because I'll be honest, like we were talking about this just before we started recording, like most of what we talk about is very much philosophy, methodology, around, and the mindset around a lot of things, rather than just like do this, do this, do this. And that's for a reason, like, because you're not going to learn as much if we just tell you what to do versus if we teach you how to think about things. So that is on purpose. But today we're going to start with a little bit of a mindset shift around things, and then we're going to get into a bunch of ways that you can implement that today. And in fact, if you saw the title of this episode, something about shifting an energy state, Christina just put me in a very anxious and tense energy state for like 10 seconds. And then I had to kind of just laugh my way out of it, because she was like, actually, after the episode, I have a question for you. And I was like, okay, do you want to just ask me now, like before we record? And she was like, well, it might be long. And I was like, oh my God, like, does she like not want to be friends anymore? Is there bad news? Like, what is happening? And I just got super like, like world is ending. We need to talk about what? And then she was like, no, I just want to know how you schedule your day. And I was like, oh, fuck. Okay. Cool. That makes sense.
Which is
So
like hilarious right before we recorded a podcast episode on this.
I know, but it's a great like lead-in example, because I felt super anxious and I was like, oh man, am I going to have to hold this state through the whole podcast or like what? And we just cleared it up right away. Moral of the story is clear communication is the key to relieving anxiety. No, I'm just kidding. But we're going to talk about how to shift yourself out of energy states that you don't want to be in, and why that is so important for your health and your fitness journey and the outcomes that you see there. You might think, I want to lose some weight. Why the fuck are we talking about this? But the reality of it is, it's actually a really, really big part of being consistent and successful.
Yeah. And so that's really interesting because we had a client who asked like, hey, on the check-in form, like, why are you asking me about my relationships and, how I'm feeling in my community? Like, why is that important to my health and fitness goals? And so I was like, wow, that's a really great question. And it's, sometimes I think that because we have an understanding that everything is connected, as a coach, like sometimes we don't relay that to clients, and it may be like, I'm not understanding, but your energy state and like everything flows together. So if you're feeling out of alignment in one area, that's probably going to affect the other area. So just making sure that everything is in a good state. And like Marissa was saying, like if you are extremely stressed, if you're extremely anxious at work, or in your home life, and you think, oh, fitness and nutrition is separate, they're very, very, very much intertwined. And so that's why we spend time like talking about your mindset as a client and what can we do in those situations to address that so you can start to make more progress in the gym.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh man, I just had like a flashback when you were saying that, when you were like, if you're out of alignment with blah blah blah. I just thought back to like probably like 2016, 2017, or maybe a little bit later than that. But when Amanda Bucci first made her pivot from like fitness and business to like alignment coach or whatever she is now, absolutely love her. I just like sometimes it's like a little bit much. But the reality of it is like someone might be listening to this and be like, alignment, what the fuck? Like, bullshit is this? I don't know why I'm cursing so much today, but like, what bullshit is this? Right? Like, why are we talking about this? Like, I need to know calories in versus calories out. And if you're,
Mhm.
4 minutes in and you're like, let me stop listening, this is actually really, really important because, so I'm going to bring it back to psychology. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is a pyramid that basically starts with physiological needs being met, safety needs being met, belonging and love needs being met, and then self-esteem, and then cognitive, aesthetic, self-actualization, and transcendence. So like if you're hearing someone talk about like alignment and like be in alignment with blah 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 and this and that, like you might think that like we're at the very very top of the pyramid of like transcendence and self-actualization and everything is higher level. And the reality of it is, if somebody is working on their health and their fitness and their mindset, they are probably closer to the top of that pyramid than somebody who is homeless and like doesn't know where their next meal is coming from. Like, yes, that is true. But the bottom of this pyramid, physiology, I will make the argument to say that I don't think this is the way that the pyramid is intended. Like, physiological means like, do you have food? Are you sleeping? Like, is your environment like safe? And like, do you have what you need? But sometimes our body can be in a state of feeling unsafe because of the
Mhm.
mental like load we have on ourselves from just like the strains of life, like working a full-time job that's asking. I had a client tell me she works 55 hours a week, and like it's not like, that's more than most people should probably. And I was like, okay. And then that plus, maybe you're a mom with multiple kids and pets and relationships to upkeep. And maybe you want to try to have a social life on top of that. And also you want to take care of your health and fitness. Oh, and also maybe you also have anxiety or depression on top of all of that. Like, imagine how this person feels. Imagine what their body is doing to react. And, a lot of what I've been learning about lately is how does the body like really hold a lot of the shit that we have like mentally stress wise, and how does that manifest into things like hormonal issues, gut issues, like, and how does that prevent somebody from like seeing the physical changes that they want to see in their fat loss or muscle gain journey. So like it's all interconnected. And so I'll make the argument that like even though the pyramid wasn't intended this way, we can kind of be lower on the pyramid than we should with like having our body be in a state of feeling unsafe or not physiologically healthy because of a lot of what just goes on in the day to day. And so why we're talking about these energy states is because you do have control over how the state that your body is in. And when it comes to emotions and finding alignment in emotions of where they are versus where you want them to be, it starts with like your bodily state. And that's a tool that we're going to teach you how to use to shift that emotion so that you get in a better spot, a better headspace, a better bodily state, so that everything else can go along with it. Your actions, your physiology, your fat loss, your muscle gain, like that stuff, it starts here. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's really important because, in that situation that you just brought up, this person has a house, they have a job, they know where their meals are coming from. So technically, they, should be far up on this pyramid,
They
but they're
shouldn't have
not.
problems with
Right.
quotations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you have it so good compared to everyone. And like, yeah, like, yeah, you're blessed to have a home and have a warm meal and all these things. But that doesn't mean that you can't feel stressed or you're feeling like that fight or flight kind of situation. And so, and then I will argue too, because, in my experience as a counselor and working with students, I had a lot of students who were anxious and depressed, and they knew that there were people who had it worse than them, and they still felt anxious and depressed, which made them feel even worse about how they were feeling. So it was just this cycle. And so I definitely understand that. And then that's not to say that if, oh, just suck it up, there are other people that are in worse situations. So I definitely understand that. But I think it's also really important to think about, like, we've talked about acute stress and chronic stress before, whereas like acute stress is maybe like, you are in a traffic jam And it's really, really frustrating because you're going to be late to a meeting, or you are stuck in traffic, or you're going to be late to work, whatever it may be. Like, but once you get there, it's like, whew, okay, that's done. And the stress is gone. But a example of chronic stress is like, well, maybe you're a bus driver or whatever it is. And like you hit traffic jams every single day. And it's just like wearing on you. You're constantly late. Or you could even use the example of being in a relationship. If you and your spouse have an argument, that's an acute stressor once it's over. But if you are in a state or an environment where you and your spouse argue constantly and all the time, it's just a constant stressor in your life. And we are not meant to have chronic stress. Stress is actually great, acute stress, because again, what we were talking about before, that flight or fight, like you want to be in a situation where you have adrenaline, like you're ready to act and be very quick, but you shouldn't feel like that all the time. Our body is not meant to feel that way. So it is really, really important to be able to shift your energy state. And again, it's not just like, oh, boom, shift my energy state, or like reframe, I'm great. It takes a lot of skill to be able to recognize how you're feeling, or even if you're not, like, how is this showing up in other areas of my life that maybe I am more stressed than I thought I am. And so just some things that you can do every single day, and then things that you can do when you have a big stressor that you need to deal with right away.
Mhm. Yeah. And, I'm actually really glad that we somehow landed on this episode. We had to pick what we were talking about very quickly today. But I'm happy because I've talked a lot about like elements of this in a lot of recent episodes, because it's been kind of what my focus has been for myself for a while now. And I've talked with it about it with a lot of clients. But the reality of it is that most of America is chronically stressed. And most people, I will say, if most is more than 50%, so 51% or something like that, I will make the argument that I believe that that's true. Like, I don't have a official statistic to prove that, but I will say, I think based on just the culture that we're in, the like go, 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 work to live, or what is it, live to work culture that we're in, I think that most people are probably chronically stressed, and we're comfortable that way. And the reality of it is, we don't even know or think that there can be something different, because it's normalized to feel this way. And I think there's starting to be a dialogue around self-care and like being in a better headspace, but I don't think that there's as much of a conversation around proactively shifting your energy state. Rather, I think the conversation is around how to like de-stress, painting stress as the enemy, and saying like, oh, you need to like give yourself a break and relax, and rather than do the things that are actually going to put you in a proactive, productive, healthy headspace, it's more so like, how can I band-aid the problem by like having a face mask, or like taking a mental health day from work or something. Not
Yeah.
that those things are bad, but it's like, that doesn't solve the root of the fact that we're painting people as the victim. That's what I think I'm trying to say, right? Like, you're not the victim, you're actually in control, and you can. And again, I'll plug this one more time, and I want to have him on the podcast. He will be on the podcast. I hope. I'm going to follow up with him via email today. The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Like, you are in control of the abundance and the joy and the success that you have in your life, but you have to actually invite it in. And most people are not used to doing that. They're not used to saying, I want to and am okay with feeling happy and good and abundant all the time. Most people say that they want that, but when it's actually happening, they self-sabotage so that it doesn't happen for that long. So that's why we always say, like, joy is fleeting, or like, stop and smell the roses. It's like, no, like, you can be in the rose bush, like, or not, I guess that's thorny, but you can smell the roses all the time if you choose to. And that's a very difficult choice to make. And it's not easy. And I mean, I'm nowhere near, the majority of my time feeling that way, but these are some tools that you can use to shift that.
Yeah. So I think the big thing that we always talk about is growth mindset. We always talk about the power of reframing and trying to sit there and think about, like, and again, we've talked about this all the time. Like, if you're in a traffic jam, or if you're in a situation that just sucks, like, it is okay to be like, man, this sucks. Like I had a situation yesterday and I talked with Marissa. It's like, this blows. And
Yeah.
I'm allowed to feel that way. And I think, I mean, it's 100% normal, but it is not okay to sit there in that feeling and just constantly sit here and say, this sucks, this sucks. I need to do something about it. And like
Mhm.
Marissa was just saying, like, I am in control. So what can I do right now? Like, okay, I felt this way, but now what? So, a takeaway right now is like, I removed myself from the situation. I was like, it is not doing me any good right now to be here. I need to go outside. I need to change my environment. I need to get some fresh air. I need to go get some sunshine. I need to spend time with my family and call my mom because she helps me process. So I did talk about it because it was on my mind, but just being in a new environment like allowed me, and I just felt this huge release. And it was so good. And I came back and I felt more refreshed and ready to think more logically and clearly about the situation than if I had continued to feel kind of like in this panic mode and maybe do something that I wasn't necessarily proud of or happy with. So I needed to just take a second to reset and then also think about the situation as like, of course, in this moment, it was kind of like, why is this happening to me? Right. Like that was my initial thought. And that is 100% a victim mentality. Why is this happening to me? But I'm not gonna say that I didn't have those thoughts because I did. Those were my initial thoughts. But then again, I have the power to reframe and be like, there is a lesson in this. How can I take this and improve and move forward? And that's what I'm going to do eventually. And I'm like, you know what? This is going to prepare me in the future for another situation like this occurs. And I'm going to have it under my belt and I'm going to be way more prepared and it's not going to feel as intense. And so, like, that was how, and I'm still in the situation, but that's how I'm like viewing it and how I'm going to tackle the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one last tie down for why the heck this is important, if all you want to do is lift weights and get more muscles and have less fat, is this is essentially what we're describing is the skill of emotional regulation. That's all it is. Like experiencing emotions, saying, "Hey, that's okay, but like I don't need to stay here. I'm going to change that." And what are the tools that we use to do that? And here's why it's important. Like if you are able to regulate the way that you feel on command, on demand, when you want to change the way you feel, you can. Imagine how much power that gives you in situations where you might otherwise turn to less productive behaviors. So, for example, emotional eating, stress eating, self sabotage with like alcohol, with skipping the gym, with staying up too late, with whatever other like toxic patterns and behaviors that we have, because like we as 21st century Americans, we have a lot of them. We have a lot of horrible, horrible behaviors. And that's what us as coaches are trying to give people are those better tools and habits. But I think what today is going to do is give you the well-rounded understanding of it doesn't just start with the tool. Like as a coach, I can say like, go outside, go for a walk. That is your task for the week. Yes, that's important. I can tell you why, your walking steps, physiology is so good for you, blah, blah, blah. But like, it's also like, what's the root behind it? Like, or, drinking water when you feel like you might be hungry, but you're not sure, or like all these different tools, like they're tools to shift your state to help you be more in alignment with the goals that you have, the processes that you need to fulfill, therefore the results that you're going to see. Because if you're able to be emotional and allow yourself to be emotional instead of reaching for the band-aid, which is the cookies or the ice cream or the alcohol or whatever, and deal with the emotion itself, like actually solve the root issue and avoid the self-sabotaging behavior, you're going to be fitter, healthier, happier, and in a better headspace overall. So like, why is this important? Because doing this allows you to be way more consistent with your fitness goals, with hitting your macros or, going to the gym. Like it's just being able to stop the self-sabotage before it happens. So that's why we're talking about this. So
Yeah.
that's all I wanted to say.
I love what you're saying again. And I know we're like almost bringing it back to being more like a more mindful and philosophical. We're giving the context, right? Rather than diving into like, here, just do this XYZ. But it actually reminded me of client experience who she felt like she didn't have any time to do anything. And she was just kind of in this like hamster wheel. And she was like, I don't even know. She was trying to spend so much time like figuring out what to do with nutrition. She had no idea. Same thing with fitness. She didn't have a routine. Everything was just chaotic. And when she got her fitness and nutrition in alignment, where she had a routine, she knew what to do, she then had all this other time to then put towards like, how am I feeling emotionally? Like, can I work on this? So I would say it again, they're so connected. And if you fix one, it's going to try to help to fix with the other. So if you feel like maybe health and nutrition are great, well, then maybe you need to focus on this aspect, is shifting your energy state. And if you feel like your energy state is great, maybe fixing your health and nutrition will help even more. So just, again, this is why we talk about it.
Oh man, you just hit a chord with me because like that's kind of where I'm toggling between it again. It's like I've been in a good place physically, and like I've been working on like experiencing my emotions, like validating, acknowledging them, and like almost to the point where like I'll be like, okay, I can make a decision to emotionally, like I can be emotional and then I can like choose to eat or not eat right now, like as a coping mechanism. And sometimes the answer is like that might actually make you feel better. I will say most of the time it's not. But like then if you are like in a phase of acceptance and you do that over and over again, like you might be in a place where you're like, oh, I'm eating too much. We should like focus back on the health and fitness side. And then, you flip flop, right? Mental health, physical health. They're not opposites, but like sometimes you can kind of like go to one extreme versus the other, back and forth, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, but all right. So I think we can probably knock out the list itself pretty quickly, but like examples of states that most people don't enjoy being in and how to shift it. I'll start with anxiety. If you're feeling anxious, typically I will, I'm going to use more personal examples, I feel like, than like just tactical. But like when I'm feeling anxious, there's a couple different things you can do. You can move yourself out of whatever environment that you're in. So like sometimes going out and getting on a walk can be really great to clear your head. Um, Deep breathing, box breathing, is a big one. So like if you're feeling anxious and you feel your heartbeat in your chest or your throat or your head, like, and it's that kind of anxiety, box breathing and paying attention to your breathing, paying attention to your heart rate, and like acknowledging the fact that it's slowing down as you do the breathing. And all box breathing is just a 4-second in, 4-second hold, 4-second out, 4-second hold, slow, deep belly breathing. But if you do that, and like meditation is another one, like it really does help with anxiety, because your body's in a tense state, and all you're doing by kind of breathing through it is allowing your muscles and your body to relax, and just be able to shift the physiology. So, and then the mental follows.
Yeah, and as a counselor, that was one of my favorite techniques. Was it sounds so simple, right? Just breathe. Like just breathe. But I mean, I've had hysterical clients and students, and the first thing, speaking logically is not going to do anything to them in that moment. They need to calm down. But focusing on their breathing allows them to shift from whatever they're feeling physiologically and then focus on their breath. And that refocus can help a ton. The other thing too is labeling. So I think that sometimes what happens if we're feeling a certain way, I feel like anxiety is kind of like, it's really hard sometimes to label, because it's like, I don't know, I'm feeling kind of icky, or I'm not really sure why I'm feeling this way. So I think that just kind of throwing a label on it, like I'm probably feeling anxious. And I think especially too, because a lot of times it's like, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling upset, usually there's something that like I know why I'm feeling that way. But anxiety is just sometimes like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. So just kind of throwing a label on it can help a little bit. Be like, oh, I'm just anxious right now. Like that's probably what it is. Having just like, this is what I'm experiencing can help a little bit too. But definitely deep breathing and kind of like refocusing in the moment to bring it back to the present.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. And with anxiety, especially like if you're focused on the future, that's all anxiety is, right? Anticipation of future pain. So if you focus on where you are right now, and that's why getting outside and walking around helps because you are literally focusing on taking steps in front of you. Like you are focused on where you are physically. Um, so yeah, that's another great one for anxiety is figuring out how to get yourself back to where your feet are, like and just
Hmm.
being present, usually meditation, breathing, even journaling, and moving your body can help your body get out of that state. So
Yeah. I don't
love
want to
it.
dive into cold plunges. um, but yeah, that's a good one. But the other thing too, I feel like, and this kind of goes into every state that you can feel. I think just a big culprit is like removing yourself from social media.
Yeah.
Whether that's taking, just putting your phone down and going outside and just like not being on technology, not having anyone be able to access you, or whether it's like a complete removal for a couple days, or going through and just removing certain accounts, or like whatever it may be, just detoxing from social media can help a ton.
Yeah. Yeah, for all of the states that we will mention,
Yeah.
absolutely. But since you brought it up, cold plunging is also a great technique to basically with just like bodily stress, anxiety, like essentially what it does is it puts your body into a hyper anxious and aware state for a short period of time because you get in the water and you're like, holy shit, I'm gonna die. And so your body goes into that state more than it already was if you were anxious. And then once you get out, you feel this relief because you're like, ah, I'm good, I did it. And then whatever you were feeling isn't quite so bad because your body's training itself to be more resilient to those really big adrenaline kind of hits. So that's all I will say about that.
Please,
But
please, side note, please send Marissa all the cold plunging like memes and reels on Instagram.
like four people sent me the same one and you were one of them where it's like what cold plungers do and it was that guy who like mocks everybody and I was like yes I understand but
I am that person now.
yes. So feeling unmotivated. This is one of my favorite ones to talk about. I think I have gone over this before, so we'll make it brief. But like, if you're feeling unmotivated, like the reality of it is, you're probably unmotivated because you're like in sweats on the couch, like you're doing lazy things. Like, so yeah, of course you're gonna feel unmotivated. So instead of trying to think your way into being motivated, because it won't work ever try doing things that will get your body into maybe an anxious state or like a hyped up energetic state. And so things like getting up and just like doing a couple like jumping around like jumping jacks or like a couple push-ups or like listening to your favorite music or doing something that like actively gets you moving or energized rather than sitting there and like breathing through it. Could you imagine like being unmotivated then like closing your eyes and breathing through it? You might fall asleep like so you have to pick the actions that are going to help you get out of the state that you're in, not stay there, right? So yeah, music, dance party, jumping jacks. I mean, you can take caffeine, but like, I mean, I'm thinking natural ways to do this. So, do you have anything else for that one?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm thinking about it from the standpoint of we both work from home, and it would be very easy to just like wake up and like stay in pajamas. And don't get me wrong, like I absolutely do this sometimes, but I feel so much better. It is a non-negotiable for me to put makeup on, get
Yeah.
myself ready, like feel, and even if this sounds so silly, but even just going from like PJ pants or sweatpants to like leggings, like I feel more active. I feel like, oh, I can just run out the door and like, I don't need to change it's just like simple little shifts like that can make a huge difference in how you're feeling.
Yeah. I wear jeans almost every day.
That's gross, but that's fine.
I wear jeans at home to work from home almost every single day because like for me it's like leggings are fine, but like it's just like that one step up where I'm like these are real clothes and like if I were to go out to dinner after work, I could just go. Like or something like that. But usually I end up changing into gym clothes and then going to the gym in the evenings. So it's a little backwards, but it's what I do.
Yeah, I wear leggings because I'm running after a little guy all day long. And then I'm like, oh, well, I have 5 minutes to hop on the treadmill and get some steps in. So
Yeah.
yeah, but just,
Oh, I know why I do it. It's because of Bennett's claws.
oh, yeah,
And they're like thick pants. So it's like I
yeah.
started doing it when we got him. I just realized, yeah.
I need to do that because Colton is biting. So so same situation. But yeah, just something little, and it could be whatever, like doing your hair.
hmm Oh shit. Well, this is awkward. Oh, you froze. You're back.
Oh, I was gonna say
Weird.
what? Oh, it says my internet connection is stable.
Eh, well,
What?
it seems okay now.
Okay. Well, what I was saying is like whatever you need to do that's going to help you feel your best. So if that's doing your hair, doing your makeup, like feeling good about your outfit, just like whatever is going to help you feel more ready to take action, do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, no, I like it. I don't think I have anything more on that. But if you are feeling sad, let's go with that one. If you're feeling sad, what to do there? And for myself, like music has been a big one lately to like put me into a joyous state because that's the polar opposite of sadness is feeling joy and happiness. And I'll be honest, like some days when I'm feeling either anxious or scarce or unhappy, there's a part of me that like doesn't want to like feel joyous. I'm like resisting it. I'm like, oh no, like I want to sit in my pity and wallow or whatever. And it's so stupid. And so like sometimes I'll actually have to like turn up the music so loud that like I can't hear my internal dialogue and like jump around and like do it while I'm still feeling like bleh. Like I had this the other day where I was like trying to hype myself up before a call that I needed to be energized for. And I was in my office literally jumping around for like 5 minutes. And it took me the whole 5 minutes to come around to like the point where like a smile cracked on my face. Like it was actually really like kind of sad to like even say that out loud, but I was just like, I was just not feeling it. I was like really tired, really burnt out that day. And I was like, come on, get your energy, get your energy. And I was just thinking, like, come on, come on, come on. And then, like, I think it was really just a moment where I was like, all right, I'm going to stop putting pressure on myself to like shift this and just kind of just like loosen up a little bit. That like I was able to like laugh about it. Like sometimes, like, looking at something funny can like get you in the right mood, so like making a joke about something or like just not taking yourself quite as seriously. Oh man, who said it? Someone said the other day, I think it was one of my coaches, but like she was talking about internal dialogue and like when you like say to yourself like you're a failure or like you screwed up on your diet, like you're never going to reach your goals or whatever. An actual tactic in therapy that they use is they have you repeat that to yourself in like a cartoon character voice where it sounds like really ridiculous, where you're like, you're a failure or something like that. But it like makes you laugh and then you're like, oh, it's not that serious, right? So like if you're feeling sad about something and you're like, man, my whole life sucks or whatever, like maybe talk to yourself in a cartoon character voice and you'll laugh about it.
So that's hilarious. One of a technique that I was taught when I first started doing like content creation was the photographer was like, okay, now what I want you to do, she's like, oh, so, smile, smile. And you're like, doing your cheese. And she was like, all right, now I want you to like give me the fakest, biggest laugh you can give me. Like, I want it to sound over the top. And so you do, it's like, ha, ha, ha. It's like so stupid, but it like makes you laugh, like genuinely, because you're like, this is ridiculous. But that's what she's trying to get. She's trying to get the genuine laugh afterwards. So it's just like tricking yourself into doing something. But like you, and again, like I'm a huge psych nerd, right? Like that's what I went to school for. I'm fascinated by it. But just like if you're frowning, like if you're constantly like just whatever, like you're gonna feel that way. But if you're like smiling, if you're happy, if you're laughing, like your body is like instantly going to feel better. So like Marissa was saying, like trying to kind of put yourself into that mood, even if I don't necessarily feel like it, even just faking it is going to change your physical state.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, and then I will say, you know, when it comes to like, it's particularly came to mind with sadness, because like maybe you're grieving or like something
Yeah.
actually bad happened. Like, this is not to say that you are not allowed to feel that way. Like,
Mm,
you have to first accept the fact that you feel that way and say, hey, it is okay that I feel that way. What we're giving you tools for is when you've decided, hey, I don't want to stay this way anymore. Like, I think I'm good, but like, I can't get myself out of this state, right? So this comes in phases. Something like anxiety, if it's fairly chronic, for me, like anxiety is fairly chronic throughout most of my day. It's not like crippling, but it's just like, it's just there. And I just don't like it. So, like, at any point in time that I catch that, I'm going to be like, fuck this. I'm going to try to get rid of it. um, but it's like, I've already accepted the fact that, okay, I do have like a decent amount of anxiety most of the time. I'm okay with that. I haven't judged myself for it. Like, it's okay. When you've reached that point and you've then decided, okay, I don't want to stay here, that's when you use these. You cannot use these tools to actively combat an emotion that you have not dealt with yet, because that is, again, a band-aid to the problem. So understand that. And the number one thing that you should do if you're feeling that way is to give yourself compassion for the fact that you feel that way. So if you're feeling unmotivated, instead of saying, yeah, you piece of shit, let's go listen to some music and like get moving. No, you have to say, hey, I'm unmotivated. It is okay that I feel that way. I am not going to place judgment upon myself or my morals or my value as a human being based on the fact that I am unmotivated right now in this moment, because it's just a feeling. And
yeah.
now I'd like to move on from it.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like it's not like, oh, someone died or something tragic happened. Like, oh, I'm just gonna dance around to for 5 minutes to a music video. Like that,
Yeah.
like not at all what we're saying. Like absolutely you need to take time to process. And I think also kind of like recognizing like, okay, like there is like I'm going to need some time. Like
Mm-hmm.
time is going to help. And but again, that's part of the reframe is like I know that I will get through this and time is going to help. There are some things that I can do in the moment that will help a little bit, but I still need to process what's going on. So this isn't just a snap of the finger, like I'm going to change my energy shift or my energy state, like, and everything is going to be fine. But yeah, if you are just like generally like, I think this is more for like a general, like, hey, I'm just like unhappy or sad today, and I'm not really 100% sure why. Maybe it's like a comparison thing, like you're, like feeling like, oh, why do they have this and I don't, or whatever it may be. And that's like, I feel like that is the type of like unhappy and sad that we're kind of talking about. Or maybe
Yeah.
like after a fight like that you have with your spouse and you're just feeling like a little bit down or whatever, or like you didn't close a deal or something, someone else got a promotion, so, kind of something more like that, not something super traumatic.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, it's situational, like anything is. But it's like when you've come to the place where you're like, I don't want to stay in this position anymore, then okay, you have the choice and you have the power to move on from it. And every single moment, every single day, you can make that choice. Like, and when we say this, right, like I think a lot of people would say, like, oh, shift your energy state. Like when I first approached this whole realm of thinking, I was like, awesome. I'm never going to feel anxious or scarce in my life ever again. Sorry, that's not the case. Like, it's an active, like, day by day, moment by moment decision that you're making. And it's not going to work all the time perfectly. Like, just because I'm saying that I have these tools and that I can use them does not mean that I don't experience anxiety or scarcity or a lack of motivation. I experience that shit all the time, but like I just know how to get myself out of it a little bit quicker, and I know how to get out of it so that it does not affect my following actions as much as somebody who does not have those tools. That's all that
Yeah.
means.
I think it's the same thing. I know that we talked with Brian and Lindsay about this too with the podcast and health and fitness. And it's not like, oh, once you've reached this level in your health and fitness, it's just easy and you never experience anything hard ever again. It's like, no, like I consciously have to force myself to go outside and go on a walk. I have to force myself to go to the gym. Some days I'm motivated, some days I'm not. Some days like I can go out to dinner and like order what I need to order and like, or other times I'm like, man, I really want another breadstick or five. Or like, you know, like it's like we still have those thoughts and feelings, but we're just better equipped and more, I guess, like mentally able to make decisions or make the right decisions that we need to.
Yeah. Just it's a practice thing for sure. And like you just get a little bit better at it over time. And you're never perfect at it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Remember when I said this episode was going to be 25 minutes long?
Yeah. I was like, absolutely. My son has been awake in his crib for like 36 minutes. So he's been doing really good.
Wow,
Um,
good.
I know he's just rolling around, but he's starting to get a little like, all right, I'm over this. But I think that that's actually like a really great way to like wrap the episode up as we talk about all the time. It's like, you are not going to be perfect in every single situation, but every time you are dealing with something and you come out on the other side, like you are more equipped either with like, hey, that didn't work, or hey, this did help. You know, I can use this in the future to help me deal with this again.
Mm-hmm.
And just,
Absolutely.
yeah, everything you go through is a learning opportunity and you'll be more equipped to deal with things. So I think that's really just like the hammer home with like what we want you guys to take away from this episode.
Yeah. And not that we're magic energy shifting gurus now. We're definitely not.
No. Or if you made it through the whole podcast, you're like, man, I hope they don't talk about like woo woo shit from now on. But I mean, I definitely think as I've gotten older, I believe a little bit more in energy state and manifestation and like all, you know, kind of those things that are I feel like do get that label of being woo woo, but I've seen it a little bit more and I've seen it in practice.
Yeah, well, it's just like the like manifestation thing, right? Like I just posted about this earlier today on like my close friend story. I have the opportunity to talk to a bunch of like NASA staff and executives in 2 weeks. And I just locked that speaking gig down virtually. And I'm like, holy shit, that's really cool. Guess why that happened? It's not the magic power of manifestation at work. It's the fact that like I said that I was going to speak more at things. So then I told people about it. And then more opportunities came because more people were aware that that was something I wanted to do. Like it is just like the common sense of like if you put something out there, like if people hear that and like they see the value in it too, then the opportunities will come. So like I could sit here and be like, I manifested this. Like, yes, technically I did, but like that's how that works.
Yeah. And you also took action to do that. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
posted something like, hey, I want to speak at more shit. Send me opportunities if you have places you'd like me to speak virtually or in person. So if you're listening to this, please let me know. But like again, like that is how I'm manifesting it. So it's
Yeah.
not woo woo. It's just like that's how you get shit to happen.
Yeah. Do the shit and shit will happen.
Yes.
Yeah. So we hope that you guys, if you're still listening, that we hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You can find both of us on Instagram. You can find me at Christina Fit and Marissa is at Marissa Roy Fitness. Thank you guys so much for listening. And we hope to see you back next week.